You ready? Okay, Mayor, I think we're ready.
Okay, everybody's ready. It's 6:07. We'll call the September 9th, 2020 meeting, the special city council meeting. I'll give the pledge and then the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for what you do for our community, our country. We ask for your guidance. We ask you to look after our country, the world, everyone involved. This issues and this pandemic will go away and we'll get on with things. And we ask that you give us guidance as a council, and we look after our troops and our first responders and our services. In your name we pray.
Amen.
Man.
Ms. Sykes, call the roll, please.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Mr. Jefferson?
Here.
Ms. Moses?
Here.
Mayor Witt?
Here.
Mr. Coberline?
Here.
Mr. Helpenberger?
Here.
Keith Gilmore?
Here.
Okay, we have minutes from June 1st, June 15th, and July 6th, regular sessions.
Move to approve.
Second.
And a motion and second to approve the minutes. Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Moses?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Next is approval of the agenda. I don't have any modifications. If no one else does, is there a motion to approve the agenda as published?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second.
And a motion and second to approve the agenda as published. Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Moses?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Next, under presentations, we have a fair housing workshop and first public hearing for the fiscal year 2019 Small Cities Community Development Block Grant. I think we have Melissa Fox from Fred Fox Enterprises.
Check on the attendees. Yes, Ms. Moses. Melissa Fox. You get allowed to talk?
Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
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 Okay, great.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, the first is the fair housing presentation. That's just for information purposes. We'll be going into the public hearing after that. But for the first, I'm just going to go over the Federal Fair Housing Act. 42 of the U.S. Code prohibits discrimination in housing-related transactions, including the sale, rental, or financing of dwellings. Discrimination includes refusing to rent to someone, steering someone away to a particular type of housing or neighborhood, enacting zoning measures to exclude particular groups because of membership in a protected class. Excuse me. What are those protected classes? Race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familial status, and disability. Now, on a state or local level, there may actually be more protected classes, but these are just the ones under the federal fair housing. What is prohibited? No one may take any of the following actions based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin. Refuse to rent or sell housing, refuse to negotiate for housing, set different terms, conditions, or privileges for sale or rental of a dwelling, falsely deny that housing is available for inspection, sale, or rental, for profit, persuade or try to persuade homeowners to sell or rent dwellings by suggesting that people of a particular race, age, sex, etc. have moved or about to move into the neighborhood, or deny any person access to membership or participation in any organization, facility, or service related to the sale or rental of dwellings. And on slide 5, page 5. All right. Housing protection for families with children. It is unlawful to discriminate against a person whose household includes one or more children who are under the 18 years or under, or in which one or more minor children live with a parent or legal custodian. This is known as familial status. All right. Additional protection if you have a disability. If you have a physical or mental disability, including hearing, mobility, and visual impairments, cancer, chronic mental illness, or HIV/AIDS that substantially limits one or more major life activities, or are regarded as having such a disability, a housing provider may not refuse to let you make reasonable modifications to your dwelling at your expense. Now, a landlord may permit these changes only if you agree to restore the property to its original condition when you move. So a building with a no pets policy must allow a visually impaired tenant to keep a guide dog. If you need a ramp, a handicap ramp to get into the front door, a landlord should allow you to make those reasonable modifications. Now they may require that you remove the ramp at the end of your lease, but they are required to allow you to make modifications like that. Page 7. What housing is exempt? The Federal Fair Housing Act exempts owner-occupied buildings with no more than 4 units and single-family housing sold or rented without the use of a broker. Senior housing exemption exempts some senior housing facilities and communities from liability for familial status discrimination. Now, those senior housing exemptions, they have to go through a state or federal program that HUD has determined to be specifically designed or operated to assist elderly persons. So they have to go through and actually get this certification to be a 55 or 62 plus community. You can't just build this community and then decide. You have to go through the actual, program that HUD has designated and be certified as that. All right, slide 8. If you think your rights have been violated, you can contact the following. On a state level, you can contact the Florida Commission on Human Relations. The phone number is 850-488-7082. On a regional level, you can contact the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in Atlanta, Georgia. And the number there is area code 404-331-5140. And on a federal level, you can contact the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in Washington, D.C. The number there is 1-800-669-9777. The City of Lake City also has a local policy on fair housing, and you can contact the city and they will walk you through those steps. Now, what you'll need to provide when you make this complaint: your name and address, the name and address of the person your complaint is against, the address or other identification of the housing involved, and a short description of the alleged violation, just the event that caused you to believe your rights were violated, the dates of the alleged violation. Now, the city's ordinance also includes steps and time limits in which complaints must be submitted and responses provided. What happens when you file a complaint? The office receiving the complaint will notify the person filing the complaint and the alleged violator of the filing, and it will allow the respondent time to submit a written answer to the complaint. The office will investigate the complaint and determine whether there is reasonable cause to believe that the respondent violated the Fair Housing Act. The office will notify you and the respondent if HUD cannot complete its investigation within 100 days of filing your complaint and provide reason for the delay. Now, during the complaint investigation, HUD is required to offer you and the respondent the opportunity to voluntarily resolve your complaint with a conciliation agreement. And at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions. There's no action that needs to be taken on the fair housing. This was just for information purposes, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
I don't.
Okay.
Okay.
At this time we should open the public hearing.
Yes, we can go ahead and open up the public hearing.
Okay, is there anybody in the public that wishes to address these issues?
Is anybody have their hand raised?
Mr. Bowden does.
Mayor, we do have someone who wishes to speak during public hearing.
Sure.
Mr. Bowden.
Okay,
And if it's for the actual CDBG first public hearing, I can go through the presentation and then we can open it up for public comment on that.
okay, if you want to do that.
Okay.
Mayor, we're waiting on Mr. Bowden to move his
Yeah,
line.
I did, Audra.
Okay.
What I was saying that I want to speak when the public comments to the regular council meeting further down on the agenda.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, not doing this public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
okay, Ms. Fox, do you want to do the that presentation then?
Yes, I will. All right. This is the first public hearing for a Small Cities Community Development Block Grant. The city is eligible to apply for up to $750,000 in 3 categories and then up to $1.5 million in a 4th category. We're going to go over those 3 categories. So the first category is a housing rehabilitation. That one you're eligible to apply for up to $750,000. And under the housing rehabilitation, you would go in and you would either make modifications or you would replace owner-occupied, low to moderate income homes within the city limits of the city. Now, with that $750,000, you're doing somewhere around 10 to 11 homes. You would go in, you would first verify that they do in fact own the home. You would verify, title, and then you would develop a work specs on the home. It would be determined by that what needs to be done to bring that house up to code. If it's beyond, if the repairs would be beyond the replacement, then you would tear that home down and you would replace another one. You would replace it with another home. That's called a 1-for-1 replacement. So anything that you demolish, you would have to build back, and it's usually on the same property. A commercial revitalization, that's where you're doing work in your downtown area. You're going to do streetscape, you're going to do sidewalks, pedestrian malls, building facade work, parks, anything like that that you're doing in the downtown commercial area, you would do under the commercial revitalization category. Now the city or the service area would be the city limits, and it needs to be a minimum of 51% low to moderate income. And that's the minimum threshold that it can be is 51%. Now, under the neighborhood revitalization, there again, you're eligible for up to $750,000, and you're addressing infrastructure items in residential areas, things such as sidewalks, water line replacement, sewer line repair replacement, anything to your water system, anything to your sewer, your wastewater treatment plant, paving, drainage, community center. You can even do neighborhood parks under this. There again, a service area is defined, and we define that by, if you're doing paving, for instance, every home on that street would be considered a beneficiary. So the beneficiaries must be at least a 51% low to moderate income. That's just for the application threshold. You get additional points the higher your percentage is of low to moderate income beneficiaries. And the 4th category is the one that you're actually eligible to apply for up to 1.5. And that's where you're providing infrastructure. It's the economic development. You're providing infrastructure on city easement or property to facilitate a new business coming into the city or the expansion of an existing business. Now, the business must turn around and create long-term jobs and be included as a developer in the application. And one full-time equivalent new job must be created for each $34,999.99 being requested. So to give you an example, if you had a Love's Travel Stop that wanted to come in, but they needed a deceleration lane or they needed a bigger water line ran out to the property, you could do, CDBG could pay for that. They can't pay for anything on the actual private property, but they can do all of the city easement and the work, the infrastructure work that is needed. And then in return, Love's would hire and create and then retain for at least a year low to moderate income jobs. And that would be documented, and the state would track that for a year. They would have to keep those people hired on. So on categories 1, 2, and 3, you can only have one open at a time. Now you can have an open housing or a commercial or a neighborhood and apply for an economic development. But under the first 3 categories, you can have only one open at a time. Right now, there is no set deadline for an economic development. They usually keep those funds open. They accept applications until the money runs out. So the first 3, there is an application that is due October 5th. But under the economic development, you can apply for that one as long as the state has funds. So when we refer to low to moderate income, we're referring to HUD's fiscal year 2020 income limits. And you'll see on the slide, just for example, for a family of 4, the maximum you could make would be $44,800 and still be considered low to moderate income. You have different categories. You have extremely low, very low, and low. And we're looking to, when we refer to the 51% threshold, we're referring to that low. So it would be the $44,800. These applications are competitive, so you're competing with other small cities and counties in the state of Florida. So it's very important that whatever points you can get in your application, we strongly encourage. There are some additional points in a neighborhood and commercial project, as well as housing. Leverage. For every $2,000 of leverage that the city puts in, you get an extra point in your application. So a maximum of 25 points or $50,000. Now you can exceed that $50,000. You just don't get the extra points. It caps you out at the 25 points. Now for neighborhood and commercial projects only, if you submit with your application to the state engineered stamped construction plans and specifications by the application deadline, you get an extra 50 points for being shovel ready. All permits must be submitted for prior to the application. You don't necessarily have to have those in hand. You just have to show that they have been applied for. And that's all permits. Now, typically there is a building permit or something small like that that the contractor actually has to pull. Those are not, but it's the ones that you're going through like DEP or anything like that that you have to actually have those applied for prior to submitting your application. And the local government cannot be reimbursed for the design cost if you're going to, go in with shovel ready with CDBG funds. Even if your application is funded, you can't go back and ask for, the reimbursement of that. That is put in there just to encourage communities to be, ready to move forward with these projects, because sometimes they do take some time. So they, the state tries to encourage communities to put in leverage that shows your commitment, and then also have your plans and specs completed. That shows commitment and also shows you're ready to move forward with this project. Now, there's steps required in the CDBG application process. There's a lot of steps, but the main 5 ones are to appoint a Citizens Advisory Task Force. The city has done that. The second is to advertise and hold a CATF meeting to discuss possible projects. The Citizens Advisory Task Force did meet on August 28th of 2020. I'll be reviewing after a public comment period. I'll actually bring you what the recommended project from the CATF was. The third is to advertise and hold a first public hearing, and at that we obtain public comment, and then we'll get direction by the commission to move forward on determining a project. And that's what we're doing tonight. The fourth is to advertise and hold a fair housing workshop. We just did that previously. And the fifth is to advertise and hold a second public hearing to finalize the application. And at that second public hearing, we're actually presenting a draft copy of the application for public comment, and then also for commission to vote to either submit the application as is or revise as necessary. And at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And then if there's not any questions, we can open it up for public comment.
Does council have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, well, let's
None.
do public comments then. Do we have anybody in the public wishing to speak at this time?
Hold on just a minute, Mayor.
Okay.
Continue to speak. Mayor, we do not have anyone wishing to speak. I do know that Mr. Looper was having trouble connecting to the call, so I'm not sure if he was wanting to speak, but he is not on the line.
Okay. All right, then we'll move along. I believe Ms. Fox had a recommendation.
Yes, the Citizens Advisory Task Force, they did meet on August 28th, 2020. We went over the 4 possible categories. There was a lot of discussion on each category, but at the end, they were very interested in pursuing housing grants. They feel that the need is great for housing there in the city. So that it was their recommendation to pursue a housing rehabilitation. Now, they specified that to the Martin Luther King and Washington Street areas. But that was their recommendation.
Okay.
And then I believe staff has a recommended project that they would like to review with you.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to bring this to your attention. We had previously sought and got council approval to go after a tourism development reimbursable grant towards the Wilson Park Phase 2 improvements that would consisted of approximately $600,000 for an amphitheater, around $100,000 for a fountain in DeSoto Lake, and some landscaping, lighting, and fencing. The Tourism Development Council did award the $150,000 reimbursable grant to the city. Subsequently, the city has spent $130,000 on engineering towards this for a shovel-ready project to maximize the points, and to with the anticipation of applying under the commercial revitalization for the downtown area. The way this reimbursement grant works is you have to have a completed project before you're eligible for reimbursement. So we would not be able to receive the $130,000 already spent until the project was completed. Also, I would like to try to get this Wilson Park Phase 2 completed and then go on with other city projects and do this as fast as possible. I believe this type of construction can be done quickly, and you can turn around and apply for another grant. And our staff at this time would recommend that you pursue the commercial revitalization to finish off the Wilson Park Phase 2 improvements.
Okay. Any discussion by council?
I got a question. Where are we on the Salome Jerry part?
We're getting the engineering plan or design plan for the park to present back to council. And then we'd ask council for, well, we'd have a staff recommendation and ask council for approval to go forward with the Salome Jerry Park improvements.
Now, is those engineering plans based on the assumption that we are going to secure that building that we had talked about, or is it the plans based solely on the area that currently exists?
It would be able to encompass either. So we'd have option would include with the land and without that extra land.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I'm very supportive of the Wilson Park Phase 2. Get that done.
I agree. We came this far with it. We're ready to do it. We've got plans to do it. And as Mr. Hellenberger said, we can do that, get it done. And we were talking previously about the affordable housing. We've still got the impact fees to work on, the ordinance and the resolutions to work on. So there's some work to still be done with that. So my recommendation would be to move forward with Phase 2 of Wilson Park.
Mr. Mayor, do we need a motion for that? I know Mr. Helfenberger is looking for some guidance. Do you need that in the form of a motion, Mr. Helfenberger?
I believe you do.
I would make the motion to proceed with Wilson Park Phase 2 for the process.
Okay,
Second.
been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes, I'm gonna vote yes on this, but it's not, I'm not trying to make this a black and white issue, but I feel like the Salad Park is just important as the Wilson Park. Now, we've talked about the Salad Park in the past, and it doesn't cost as much money to do the Salome Park as you're talking about doing the Wilson Park. Now, again, I feel like the Salome Park is just important as the Wilson Park.
If I
Mayor
could,
Witt,
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Helfenberg.
if I could mention that we have CRA funds of between $200,000 and $300,000 that would be available because Sallie Mae Jerry Park is in the CRA district that we could use towards the Sallie Mae Jerry Park improvements right away once we have an approved plan by the council.
Okay. All right, so we can get both of them done. Ms. Fox, is there anything else you need?
That is it. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll close that public hearing. We'll move into the fire assessment budget hearings. We'll
Mayor,
open a public hearing on the proposed fire protection assessment rates. Is there any public comments on the fire assessments rates beginning October 1st, 2020?
just one moment, Mayor.
Okay,
I think someone had asked to speak. Hold on just one moment.
okay.
Mr. Green, was that you?
No, ma'am.
no, it's Coberline.
Sorry, Fred.
Mayor, the clerk informed us that someone dropped off the call that may have wanted to speak, and we need to protect everyone's rights. And so, like the IT director, to address whether or not the city's network has a problem. If there is no problem, then we should proceed. If there is a problem causing callers to drop off, then we need to pause the meeting until that's corrected.
Director is not here tonight. I'm running the meeting, Mr. President. There are no issues that we know of at this time. Everyone is experiencing the audio problems. I believe it is Zoom related, not the city.
Okay.
All right. But we don't have anybody that y'all are aware of that wants to speak on the fire protection at this time.
Mr. Bowden does have his hand raised, but I do believe that he asked to speak during regular public comments, but we can ask him just to make sure that he has not changed his mind and wishing to speak now.
That'd be fine.
No, I was just doing when you get to the public comment section.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
I lowered my hand, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay.
All right, if there's nobody wishing to speak, we'll close that public hearing, move into City Council Resolution number 2020-080. Mr. Coberline, you read that by title.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, constituting the fiscal year 2020-2021 annual fire assessment resolution relating to the provision of fire protection services, facilities, and programs in the City of Lake City, Florida, reimposing fire protection assessments against assessed property located within the City of Lake City for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020, approving the rates of assessment, approving the final assessment roll, confirming and supplementing the 2020 preliminary rate resolution, providing for severability, and providing an effective date period.
Is there a motion that City Council Resolution number 2020-080?
Move
Mr.
for the
Mayor,
adoption of resolution 2020-080.
second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We appreciate the staff and doing a good job of keeping the rate the same. Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Ms. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Witt.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Credible, I needed to ask you a question, please.
Okay.
I just asked the question.
So that was okay. It was just a little late coming through.
That's okay. All right, now we'll move on to the budget. The purpose of this public hearing is to accept input from the interested parties relative to the discussion, consideration, and tentative approval of the city's 2020-2021 proposed millage rate and operating budget. We offer the opportunity to all in attendance to speak in regard to the budget and ask that all speakers identify themselves by name and address. At this time, the city finance director will provide a summary of the budget process and address those items essential to compliance with the state of Florida truth and millage trim requirements.
The City Council proposes a tentative millage rate of 4.9000 mills and a tentative capital and operating budget of $60,021,932 for fiscal year 2020-2021. Council action tonight constitutes the tentative budgeting hearing as required by state trim criteria and was announced to the general public by trim notices mailed by the Columbia County Property Appraiser on August 14, 2020. During this hearing, the following agenda will be addressed. The council will discuss the 2020-2021 millage and operating budget and allow citizen input as appropriate. The council will direct announcement of the tentative millage rate proposed for adoption and of any increase, decrease, or no change. The city attorney will read by title millage resolution number 2020-081. The council will adopt millage resolution number 2020-081 on first reading. The city council will read by title budget resolution number 2020-082. The council will adopt budget resolution number 2020-082 on first reading.
At this time, I declare the tentative budget hearing open for discussion for public input, followed by discussion by the city council. Is there any comments by the public? If we don't have any comments by the public, is there any comments by council?
Are they all unmuted when you go? Mayor, hold on just one moment. We need to unmute the calls. Hold on just one moment.
Raise their hand.
If they wish to speak during public comment, please raise your hand so that we can unmute you, please. Okay, we can move on, Mayor.
Okay. If there's no further comments regarding this matter, I now ask the city finance director to state for the record the taxing authority, the proposed millage rate to be adopted, the rollback millage rate, and any change the tentative millage rate represents to the current year's millage.
The City Council of the City of Lake City as taxing authority proposes a tentative tax on all property located within the City of Lake City, Florida at the rate of 4.9000 mills for the fiscal year 2020-2021 operating budget. The current year proposed operating millage rate is a 0.88% increase from the 4.8571 rolled back millage rate as defined by Florida statutes and represents no change from the previous year's millage rate of 4.9000 mills.
I now ask the city attorney to read millage resolution number 2020-081 by title.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, adopting a millage rate for the levy of ad valorem taxes for the city for fiscal year 2020 through 2021 and providing an effective date period.
Was there a motion for adoption of millage resolution number 2020-081?
Mr. Mayor, I would move for the adoption of City Council Resolution 2020-081.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Ox, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Jefferson, it looks like we've lost Mr. Jefferson. Mr. Hill
Yes.
and Mayor Witt.
Yes.
Let's see, Mr. Jefferson.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just received a message that we need to address the IT issues. If a network is not working, the network that we choose, and anyone cannot participate, we must discontinue the meeting until the network is running. We can take a recess. That may not take care of the problem. But the recess, as long as the network remains open and people can attend the meeting that they thought they were attending at 6 o'clock, then we can reconvene. Otherwise, we need to discontinue the meeting and re-advertise it, unless there's been an update from the people at City Hall, such as IT or the clerk's office.
No, it would appear that the toll-free number to call into the meeting is down, and the only number that is working is the number that persons are having to call in to pay to participate. And we do have someone who is trying to use the toll-free number to call in and wanted to provide public comment, but was unable to do so and has sent us a message. And of course, Mr. Jefferson has also dropped off. And I'm not certain if you are hearing it, but it is incredibly choppy tonight. The whole transmission is really difficult to hear on our end this evening.
Zoom has had problems today, pretty much all day. That is not city specific.
So,
I move that we reschedule this until this problem is straightened out.
Do we lose everything that we've already voted on? I mean, does that become nil and we have to start from the beginning? Mr.
Ms.
Pepperell?
Moses, unfortunately, yes, we cannot, unless we can confirm, which is nearly impossible, that those who were interested were able to attend during any action that you all took. We'll have to redo the action. It's going to be nearly impossible to find out whether or not anyone who wanted to attend was unable to attend.
okay.
Mr. Coberline, I have a second question as well. With the trim notices and the advertising, I know there's specific dates and deadlines. Are we okay to reschedule with those?
I don't know how those would be impacted. He's available, has a great grasp of that, but I don't want to put her on the spot. I know that we could have an answer by tomorrow morning.
Ms. Duncan is here that maybe could help answer some of that.
About which?
About the trim notices.
Well, the trim notices, you have, number one, I'm going back to the fire special assessment. That has to be done by September the 15th. That means as of today, you have 7 days in order to finalize that, because I just sent the information to the tax collector today. As far as the trim, if you start this process all over, I will have to go back and look at it, because I just have the ad that's supposed to go out on September the 17th for the final hearing, which means you would have to have that final hearing. You would have to have the tentative hearing again prior to that final hearing. And I'm not sure that all that can get accomplished in time to make that happen. I would defer that question, because I will have to call the Department of Revenue and find out what the stipulations are.
Well, Mr. Copeland, if we're having technical difficulties, wouldn't it be the safe thing to do to go ahead and adjourn this meeting?
Mr. Hill, if you'll give me just a moment. I think I can address that with the Florida law. Florida law says if during the course of a CMT proceeding, technical problems develop with the communications network that prevent interested persons from attending, the agency or city shall terminate the proceeding until the problems have been corrected. So we can pause this until the problems are corrected and redo the actions we've done so far, or we can terminate the meeting and reconvene at a later date. And we've heard from Ms. Duncan, we're simply going to have to find out tomorrow what the dates or what the availability is to reconvene.
Mr. Coberline, is there a difference between stopping the meeting at this point and having to re-advertise for another meeting, or just continuing this meeting to another day to correct these problems?
There is in this case, Your Honor, because we cannot be assured that the people everyone that's interested can hear us advertise the date and time that we're reconvening. For example, tomorrow or the weekend, hypothetically. So we can't be assured that everyone who's interested is hearing us tell the time and date.
Okay, how much notice would we have to give for the next meeting?
Well, we'll give what we have to give, but we, as Ms. Duncan mentioned, we can find out the time frames in the morning as far as the trim notices and others. And we may have to have an additional meeting.
Okay, then what I'd like to ask is, I know we won't know definitely by till tomorrow, but maybe do something tentative now, say today's Wednesday. Should we try to shoot for Friday? Should we try to shoot for Monday? What would be the logical thing to recommend at this point?
Mr. Mayor, that would also depend on what the dates are, and I'll have to go back and look at my list for the county and for the school board. I think the school board's final hearing was last night, but I'll have to go look and see when the county's first hearing is, and it may even be their final, because obviously it can't coincide with the same dates that they have.
Dan, does anybody on the council have any problem with any meeting times in the next few days then?
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have the answer to the question on the trim notices.
Okay.
The notice of, we must publish a notice of continuation in the newspaper, and it must be published 2 to 5 days before before we can reconvene. So we can reconvene in as little as 48 hours after the notice is published. And we must convene by the 5th day. So we have a 72-hour window. This guidance is provided by Department of Revenue.
Well, Friday's not good for me.
By the 15th.
And that's what I'm saying about the 15th. The 15th, I'm concerned about the fire special assessment, because that is absolutely a drop dead date.
Mr. Jefferson said he's on the line. He's just one of the muted people. And Stu said he can hear loud and clear. I don't have anyone else that they.
But she's saying someone came in on the 800 line that can't get through.
Stu can't get through on the 800 line, he said. He said the 800 line is not working.
But he tried a different line and he was able
Randy
to.
sent him some different numbers that weren't published.
Sure.
And he can hear us, but he can't make any comments.
Okay.
That's what I'm understanding. I'm not sure, unless we're understanding it differently. I don't know.
Yeah, we gotta be safe.
Well, Friday's not good for me.
Okay, I don't think, it'll have to be next week, I guess, because we'll have to, the newspaper doesn't come out till Tuesday.
Well, that also means that I have to get another ad done according to the statute, according to what it says verbiage wise we have to do. We have to get that out within the 2 to 5 days, like Fred is saying. Plus, like I said, the one that I'm concerned about is the fire special assessment, which is next Tuesday, September 15th, that has to be cleared in order for that to work. So I would have to get an ad out. We'd have to get it published, and it can't coincide with the date that the county or the state or the school board already has planned.
Ms. Duncan, hypothetically, what happens if we are not able to get everything accomplished within the time period for the fire assessment? What happens?
I'll have to go back, Mr. Green, and look on the dates, but I think the absolute drop dead date for the trim is sometime early in October. But that means you also haven't published a budget or anything that you can use. That would be my understanding until that date. However, I will have to go back and look and see what those dates are. They lay it out in the trim schedule, so I can give you further notice about it tomorrow whenever I go look this up and tell you what the dates are that we know we have to have it done, so that we can still be in alignment with what the statutes require. But if that is the case, then I will probably need to stop the advertisement that was supposed to go out for the 17th, assuming that all of this doesn't work out as planned, and we'll probably have to put that off.
And I have one more question. Mr. Helfenberger, are you able to, I don't know if you have the 1-800 number in front of you, but are you able to dial through and see, or is IT able to dial through and see if that 1-800 number that we think is not working, whether or not it actually connects? Can we check that before we get off of here and adjourn?
He said that it wasn't working.
Who?
I don't know,
IT?
Mr. Helfenberger.
Just
She's
one
not-
person said it wasn't working?
No, I've had 3.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I've had a city director say it's not working. Actually, 2 city directors, Mandy Rand, IT director. She is not here, but she said that she did verify it and it was not working. And then I had another director just send me a message, said that he just tried it, it is not working, and then we have a citizen who said it wasn't working.
So I would second Mr. Hill's motion to adjourn.
Let us know in the morning as soon as we can, and we'll get it done one way or the other.
Mayor, would you like me to call roll?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson? I don't know if Mr. Jefferson is back with us or not. No, he must not have been able to reconnect. Ms. Moses
Yes.
and Mayor Witt.
Yes. Okay, well, we will be adjourned until we get our problems resolved.
Thank you.
Thank you.